What if the key to finding happiness in a new place had nothing to do with the place itself? What if it was already inside you, waiting to be recognized? The story of the two newcomers and the wise Zen master reveals a profound truth about perception. It suggests that the world you experience is a direct reflection of what you carry within. This idea challenges everything we assume about our surroundings and our relationships. If you've ever felt stuck or disappointed by your environment, this story offers a different way of seeing.
One day, a man with weary eyes and a heavy heart arrived at the Zen master's garden. He carried the dust of a long journey on his clothes and a deeper weariness in his spirit. He found the master tending to a simple patch of herbs, his movements slow and deliberate. The man asked the question that many ask when starting anew. He wanted to know what the people were like in this village. Before the master could form a reply, the man continued speaking. He described his past home as a place of constant conflict and distrust. He spoke of neighbors who watched each other with suspicion from behind their curtains. He recalled how every kindness seemed to have a hidden price, a debt that would be called in later. His words painted a picture of a life spent defending against perceived threats from every direction. He felt that he could not let his guard down, not even for a moment. The master listened quietly. He observed the bitterness that colored every word the man spoke. This bitterness was not confined to his story. It was present in the tightness of his shoulders and the defensive slant of his body. It resonated in the sharp, distrustful tone of his voice. The man's entire way of being was steeped in the expectation of disappointment. The air in the garden grew still as the man finished his complaint. He waited for the master's judgment of this new village, bracing for confirmation of his fears. The master simply said that the man would find the people here much the same as those in his last home. The man's shoulders slumped as he absorbed this answer. It was the confirmation he had expected, yet it still carried the weight of a sentence. He turned away without another word and began to walk back down the path toward the village. And as the man walked away, the master whispered to the empty air a truth that the traveler was not yet ready to hear. He said that a person sees in life whatever they carry in their heart. The garden remained quiet, holding the echo of this simple, profound principle. After the first man left, the master remained in the garden. His calm was undisturbed by the encounter. He sat for a long while, simply observing the space around him. He noticed how the man's energy had changed the atmosphere during their brief conversation. The shift was subtle but real. The birds that usually sang from the nearby trees had fallen silent. The gentle breeze that rustled the leaves seemed to avoid the space where they had sat. This was not magic. It was the natural human response to someone who expects the worst from others. The master reflected on how the man's defensive posture would likely create the very hostility he anticipated. When you approach others with a shield raised, they sense the barrier. They feel the unspoken judgment. People sense when they are being viewed as untrustworthy. Their natural response is often to close themselves off, to become guarded. This creates a self-fulfilling cycle. The man expects suspicion, so he acts suspiciously. The villagers sense his distrust, and they respond with caution. Both parties then confirm each other's negative expectations. The man sees their caution as proof of their untrustworthy nature. They see his defensiveness as a reason to keep their distance. The principle at work was as reliable as gravity. What you project outward tends to return to you. It is a simple law of human interaction. The master understood this was not about the village's true nature. The village was simply a village. The difference lay entirely in the lens through which it would be viewed.
The first man carried a lens clouded by past hurts and future fears. He would look at the village and see only what he expected to see. He would interpret neutral actions through a filter of suspicion. A delayed response would be an insult. A curious glance would be a threat. The master understood this cycle intimately. He saw how a person's inner world shapes their outer experience. He did not judge the man for his bitterness. He simply observed the mechanism at work. It was a pattern he had seen many times before. He prepared for the next visitor. He knew the same village would appear completely different through different eyes. The houses and the people would be the same. The streets would not change, but the experience of living there would be a world apart. It would depend entirely on what the next traveler carried in his heart. The garden waited, quiet and neutral, for the next arrival.
Later that same day, another traveler arrived at the master's garden. His step was light, and his expression was open. He carried no visible burden on his back, and his eyes held a quiet curiosity. He approached the master with a respectful nod. He asked the identical question that the first man had asked. He wanted to know what the people were like in this village. But his tone was different. It held a genuine curiosity rather than a heavy suspicion. He was not bracing for bad news. He was simply seeking information. Unlike the first man, he spoke fondly of his previous home. He remembered the community's warmth and cooperation. He described neighbors who shared their harvests without being asked. He recalled celebrations where the whole village came together. He spoke of people who supported each other through difficult winters and personal losses. His memories focused on moments of connection. He talked about the small acts of kindness that built trust over time. He did not mention instances of conflict or disappointment. Those events did not seem to occupy space in his recollection of the past. His narrative was built on a foundation of goodwill. The master observed how this man's openness created a different energy in the garden. The atmosphere felt lighter and more welcoming. The birds that had grown quiet earlier returned to the branches nearby. The man's relaxed posture invited conversation rather than defense. He stood with his hands open and his shoulders relaxed. This visitor carried an assumption of basic goodness in people. This assumption changed how he engaged with the world. He did not approach the master as a potential adversary. He approached him as a potential friend. His expectation was one of shared humanity. The master smiled at the man's description. He saw the reflection of a positive heart. He gave the same answer he had given before. He said the man would find the people in this village much the same as those in his last home. The man's face lit up with anticipation at these words. He took this as a promise of community and friendship. He thanked the master and turned toward the village. As he walked away, he carried with him an expectation of welcome rather than weariness. He moved toward his new life with an open heart, ready to see the goodness he believed was there. The path ahead seemed full of possibility.
As the second man disappeared toward the village, the master spoke the truth aloud to the empty garden. His voice was quiet but clear, meant for the universe to hear. He said that you see in life whatever you see in the world, and the world will see in you what you show it. This was not a mystical secret. It was a practical truth about human perception and interaction. It was a principle as real and observable as the sun rising in the morning. The same village would present completely different realities to these two men. The difference would not be in the streets or the houses. The difference would be in their internal states. The first man would likely encounter suspicion. His defensive energy would put people on guard, When he walks into a shop, his wary glance would make the shopkeeper feel scrutinized. His hesitant tone would sound like doubt. The villagers would sense his expectation of trouble, and they might respond by keeping their distance. They would mirror the caution he projected. The second man would likely find kindness. His open approach would encourage reciprocal warmth. When he walks into the same shop, his smile would be met with a smile. His genuine curiosity would invite conversation. The villagers would sense his assumption of goodwill, and they might respond with helpfulness. They would mirror the openness he offered. This mirror effect operates in every interaction. It colors our experiences before they even happen. It begins the moment we form an expectation. Our expectations do not just predict reality, they actively participate in creating it through our behavior. If you expect someone to be rude, you might speak to them with a sharp edge in your voice. That sharp edge often provokes the rudeness you anticipated. If you expect someone to be friendly, you might approach them with a relaxed and welcoming demeanor. That demeanor often invites the friendliness you hoped for. The principle means we are not passive receivers of experience. We are active co-creators of our reality. Our inner world does not merely interpret the outer world, it helps to shape it. Every thought and every expectation sends out a signal. The world tends to send back a signal that matches the one we sent. The village itself was neutral. It was simply a collection of people living their lives. The difference lay entirely in what each man brought to it. One brought a shield and found a battlefield. The other brought an open hand and found a community. The village was a mirror, reflecting back the attitude each man held in his heart.
This story is not just about two fictional travelers. It is about the choices you make every day and how you see your world. Most people believe they are accurately perceiving objective reality. They are often unaware of their own filtering lens. They think they are simply reporting the facts as they are. The difficult truth is that you often find exactly what you are looking for. If you are looking for kindness, you will notice the small gestures of goodwill. You will see the person who holds the door open. You will hear the friendly tone in a stranger's voice. If you are looking for cruelty, you will notice every minor inconvenience. You will focus on the person who cut you off in traffic. You will remember the one sharp word in a long conversation. When you approach a new situation expecting problems, you will likely find them. Your mind is primed to detect threats and confirm your negative expectations. A delayed response becomes a personal slight. A neutral expression becomes a sign of dislike. You collect evidence that supports your initial fear. When you approach with openness, you are more likely to notice opportunities. You see the potential for connection. You notice the helpful person offering directions. You appreciate the smile from a cashier. Your mind is open to positive signals that you would otherwise miss if you were focused only on defense. This does not mean ignoring real dangers. It is not about naive optimism. It is about balancing caution with possibility. It is the practice of acknowledging risk without letting it dominate your entire field of vision. You can be aware of a potential problem without assuming it is the only outcome. The practice involves noticing your initial judgments. Before you walk into a meeting or a social gathering, pause for a moment. Check your expectations. What is the story you are telling yourself about this situation? Are you anticipating a difficult conversation? Are you assuming people will be unwelcoming? It is about training yourself to see potential goodness alongside a realistic assessment. You can acknowledge that a challenge exists while also looking for the helpers. You can recognize a problem while staying open to a solution. This shift in focus is a conscious choice. It is a skill that requires repetition.
The daily practice is simple. Before you enter a new situation, take a breath. Ask yourself 2 questions. What am I assuming about these people or this place? What positive aspects might I be missing if I only look for what I fear? This moment of reflection creates a space between your automatic reaction and your chosen response. In that space, you can decide what lens you want to use to view the world ahead. You can choose the lens that allows for light as well as shadow.
What happens when you consciously apply this principle to your own relationships and environments? The transformation begins with a simple recognition. You must see that your mood and your expectations are contagious. They spread from you to others in subtle ways you may not notice. Your energy enters a room before you even speak a word. Many people resist this idea. It places the responsibility for their experience squarely on their own shoulders. It is easier to blame external circumstances. It is easier to say the problem is your difficult boss or your unfriendly neighbors. It is harder to examine how your own attitude contributes to the outcomes you face. But embracing this responsibility is ultimately empowering. It means you are not a victim of your environment. It means you have agency. You have the power to change your experience by changing your internal state. This is a profound shift from feeling like life happens to you to knowing you can participate in shaping it. Small shifts in perspective can dramatically alter how situations unfold. They change how people respond to you. A smile offered genuinely often returns as a smile. A kind word can soften a tense moment. Suspicion, when projected, often meets with defensiveness. A closed posture invites others to keep their distance. This is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is not about ignoring real problems or difficult emotions. It is about choosing where to place your focus. You can acknowledge a challenge without letting it consume your entire view. You can look for the helpers even when you see a problem. You can seek a solution while recognizing the obstacle. The payoff for this practice is gradual. You do not change your entire world in a single day, but over time, you begin to create more of the positive experiences you hope to find. You become a magnet for the qualities you embody. By showing kindness, you invite kindness from others. By demonstrating understanding, you encourage others to be understanding toward you. By approaching situations with openness, you make it safe for others to be open with you. You start to see the mirror principle in action in your daily life. You notice that when you are patient, you encounter less frustration. When you are generous, you often receive generosity in return. The world reflects back the attitude you carry within. This reflection is not always immediate or perfect, but the trend becomes clear. You are actively co-creating your reality with every thought and every expectation you hold. The power to transform your experience lies in the quality of what you bring to each moment. The village remains the same village. The streets do not change. The people do not change their nature overnight. But each traveler finds there what they themselves have brought. One finds confirmation of his distrust. The other finds the community he expects. Your world reflects back to you the attitude you carry within. This is the simple truth that can transform your experience. You are not a passive observer of your life. You are an active participant in its creation. Stay blessed, and may you carry into your world the goodness you hope to find there.